Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vijana Bala Girivanadari Jaya Vijana Bala Girivanadari Jaya Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Vijana Bala Girivanadari Vijana Bala Girivanadari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadakacharya Sattva Sattva C.C. Mother's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So today we're continuing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Today we're doing the chapter from Madhya-līlā, chapter 19. This is the Lord instructs Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī. We'll be doing a few of the verses and a few purports I'll do. And there's some 250 different texts in this chapter. Vṛndāvanīyāṁ rasa-keli-vārtāṁ kālena luptāṁ nija-śaktim utkaḥ sañcārya rūpe vyatanot punaḥ prabhur vidhau prāg loka-sṛṣṭim. How did that go again? Thank you. Vṛndāvanīyāṁ rasa-keli-vārtāṁ kālena luptāṁ nija-śaktim utkaḥ sañcārya rūpe vyatanot punaḥ prabhur vidhau prāg loka-sṛṣṭim. Vṛndāvanīyāṁ rasa-keli-vārtāṁ kālena luptāṁ nija-śaktim utkaḥ sañcārya rūpe vyatanot punaḥ prabhur vidhau prāg loka-sṛṣṭim. Vṛndāvanīyāṁ rasa-keli-vārtāṁ kālena luptāṁ sañcārya rūpe vyatanot punaḥ prabhur vidhau prāg loka-sṛṣṭim. Vṛndāvanīyāṁ rasa-keli-vārtāṁ sañcārya rūpe vyatanot punaḥ prabhur vidhau prāg loka-sṛṣṭim. Any ladies? Vṛndāvanīyāṁ rasa-keli-vārtāṁ kālena luptāṁ nija-śaktim utkaḥ sañcārya rūpe vyatanot punaḥ prabhur vidhau prāg loka-sṛṣṭim. Vṛndāvanīyāṁ rasa-keli-vārtāṁ rūpe vyatanot punaḥ prabhur vidhau prāg loka-sṛṣṭim. Vṛndāvanīyāṁ, related to Vrindavan. Rasa-keli-vārtāṁ talks about the pastimes of Sri Krishna. Kālena, with the course of time. Luptāṁ, lost. Nija-śaktim, his personal potency. Utkaḥ, being eager. Sañcārya, infusing. Rūpe, to Rupa Gosvami. Vyatanot, manifested. Punaḥ, again. Saha, he. Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vidhau, unto Lord Brahmā. Prāg eva, as formerly. Loka-sṛṣṭim, the creation of the cosmic manifestation. Translation: before the creation of the cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Lord Brahmā with the details of the creation and manifested Vedic knowledge. In exactly the same way, the Lord, being anxious to revive the Vṛndāvan pastimes of Lord Kṛṣṇa, impregnated the heart of Rupa Gosvami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī could revive the activities of Kṛṣṇa in Vṛndāvan, activities almost lost to memory. In this way, he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Umagnatu madandasya kinanjana salakaya chakshul unmilitam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya manobishtam stapitam jena bhutale Swaya Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatandikam Panchakopa Tirubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So many things are in this, not just this chapter, but this one verse. This chapter has some 250 slokas in it, and the instructions of Rupa Gosvami. This verse we just read, I'm going to read a few other verses, but this one here, saying how Rupa Gosvami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vṛndāvan, almost forgotten by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I was with Srila Prabhupada here in 1972 during Kartik. And that time he stayed Radha Damodar Temple, which was a very special place, Radha Damodar Temple. Prabhupada called it the center of the spiritual world. Actually, he called it the hub of the wheel. Everyone knows what a wheel is. Every car has wheels. And on the wheel in the center is the hub. So he called it the very hub of the wheel of the spiritual world. That place, Radha Damodar Temple, in his rooms there at Radha Damodar Temple, when he would look out, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvami's Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir. And Prabhupada said the Krishna consciousness movement began here, at that place. And he said, of course, by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvami. That's what's being said here in this verse. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvami, he again brought this Krishna consciousness movement, the pastimes of Lord Kṛṣṇa in Vṛndāvan. Some 50 years ago, we would say 500 years ago. So we're still saying some 500 and some odd years ago. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvami being given by the Lord, being given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the ability to again bring all these pastimes here in Vṛndāvan. And for us, of course, so many things can be said in this way. Myself, I always go back to one time in 1975, which was 3 years later. 1972, Prabhupada was traveling to a dozen temples, 20 temples. But over the next few years, Krishna consciousness just exploded across the world. So by the time Prabhupada in 1975, he left India, left Mumbai, Juhu left Mumbai in January, and in the course of 60 days, he went to, I think, almost 15 temples in 60 days. And he was, from what I could see, of course I don't understand, but what I saw was Prabhupada's ecstasy. That was very apparent, because almost every temple he went to, he would sit on the Vyasasana and he would look under the altar. And always he would see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu on the altar. And inevitably, in his kirtan, he would do kirtan, and then he would just close his eyes. And he did this as he traveled. He went from Hong Kong to Japan, he went to Hawaii, went to Los Angeles. There he went into ecstasy on the Vyasasana. He was seeing after 10 years, I have some writings, what he said back in the beginning, but after 10 years, it wasn't easy. Sometimes devotees think you become a devotee, Krishna will take care of you. It means everything's going to be smooth, simple, and easy. But that's not what Prabhupada went through when he left India after struggling there. A few ahead, we get to the point where it describes Rupa Gosvami, how he gave up boatloads of riches. He hired some accountants to distribute all his funds. And I remember back in those days, in the 70s, we would always, this was one of the things we would always try to understand, 50% he gave to the spreading of Krishna consciousness. That's described up ahead in the verse in the purport. 25% he gave to his relatives. 25% he kept for emergencies. Now for us it was difficult to understand. In those days, Prabhupada, he was very strict. We always talk about Śrīla Prabhupada's compassion. Most compassionate, the most merciful. He was giving us boatloads of riches. Krishna, he was giving us Krishna. But on the other side, we didn't have anything. What did we have when we joined ISKCON? 19, 20, 21 years. We didn't have anything to give up. We didn't have any riches. Most of us didn't have bank accounts. We were living there at home. But we gave everything. We gave ourselves to Srila Prabhupada. But even as the years were going on in the 70s, right after he left, it was, what did it mean to give 50%? 50% was a lot. No one was working in those days, living in the temple. Everyone lived in the ashram at the temple, even grahastas. Men lived in the men's ashram, women lived in the women's ashram, unless you were in Los Angeles, the only place with apartments, with flats. Otherwise, everyone was living very simple. No salaries. Right here, Prabhupada Krishna Balaram Mandir said, no salaries. And he said the grahastas, he said, very difficult. He said, they can't work outside. This is how it was in those days. They can't work outside. He said, neither can we pay them. Dilemma. He called it a dilemma. This was our dilemma. Of course, we had later on one devotee here. He's here now, Dhananjaya Prabhu. Prabhupada told him, start a makut business. He said that 50 years ago. Start a makut business, he said. You can maintain your family in that way and provide all the...
By book distribution, too. By book distribution.
Yes, by book distribution. It was always there. We could maintain. He wanted everyone to maintain, but his idea of maintenance was bare necessities. I traveled with him for a long time. Even as a grahasta, I traveled with him, wife and child. And I was traveling with Prabhupada. Apartment was provided. And then we went to that place, Los Angeles, New Dwarka. And he called me into his room. And he told me to get his previous servant, Nanda Kumar. He said, go get Nanda Kumar. So I went across the street. As soon as you would say Prabhupada wants to see you, first question was, why? It would bring a little anxiety. If Prabhupada wanted to see you, you didn't know what was going to happen. And for us, many times, it was to be chastised. That's why he wanted to see you, to chastise you. Why? I said, I don't know. He just said he wants to see. So I came in and we both went into Prabhupada's sitting room, offered our obeisances. And Prabhupada looked at me, he said, get my white bag. That was his briefcase, we call his white bag. Everything was very famous, Prabhupada's white bag. Later on became a red bag. So I went into his Elmira, which was locked. He had to give you the key to the Elmira. Brought his white bag. Prabhupada table just like this, he sat it in front of him. And he would unzipper it. Every movement he made was very graceful. Nothing ever looked like it was just with care. Everything he did had zippers. He'd unzipped it. And he had Lakshmi in there. He was getting dakshin. That's what was in the white bag, his passport, bank books, BBT bank account. His BBT bank book would be in there. Things from his desk, silver items would be in there. Anyway, he went in there and he grabbed a $50 bill. This was 1973. $50 bill. Now that would be a lot. It was a lot then. And he looked at me and he said, this is for your son. So I had learned, I had been with Prabhupada a long time. Don't ever say no to your spiritual master. It's considered an offense. He offers you something, you accept. That was Krishna conscious. So by that time I knew I didn't say no, Prabhupada, I can't take anything from you. I just took it. Said, thank you, Prabhupada. Then he looked at Nanda Kumar. He had another crisp $50, brand new $50 bill. And he said, here, this is for you. Now, Nanda Kumar, he had to make me feel bad. Oh, Prabhupada, he said, I can't take any money from you. Prabhupada looked at him, he said, it's not for you, it's for your son. Prabhupada always had an answer. You could never defeat him in anything. You couldn't have. So immediately, yes, Prabhupada, so we took it. We had nothing otherwise, and he knew that. He knew that with all the devotees. He would go to temples. Even in Los Angeles, it would be cold, sometimes in the wintertime, like here. It didn't freeze, but it would get close to freezing. And in the morning, Prabhupada, he would always go on his morning walk, saffron coat, big hood, and peacock feather hanging on the side, little peacock feathers on it. So he would have his coat on. But the rest of the devotees, they were living bare necessities in the temple. Prabhupada would come down the stairs, he'd open the doors, and they'd be sitting there just waiting to see him, sometimes freezing. One day Prabhupada looked at temple manager, Kurundar. He said, why don't they have jackets? Yes, Prabhupada. Next day, everybody had hooded sweatshirts standing there in front of Prabhupada. So his business was taking care of us. All he did was give. Prabhupada gave us, never wanted anything but to give us Krishna. So that time, 1975, Los Angeles, he went into ecstasy on the Vyasasan. Everywhere he went, he saw hundreds of people chanting Hare Krishna. After 10 years, traveling around for 10 years. Then he went to Mexico City. Big temple, beautiful temple. Same temple as there, Mexico City. Beautiful Radha Krishna deities. And again, the end of the kirtan. His ecstasy was not something that was simple. He just closed his eyes and all movement would stop. No more cartels, no more anything, just that. So they're the same thing. Then he went to Caracas for a week. Everywhere he's going for 3 days, 4 days, 1 week. Then he went to Caracas. And as soon as he went, he saw Gaur-Nitai on the altar. And he looked at all the devotees. He said, they've traveled very far to be with you. Imagine how personal. Lord Chaitanya, he's traveled he didn't say, I traveled very far. I've been traveling around the world for 10 years. 10 times I've traveled. No, he said, they've come just to free you. And then again, he started crying. And after that, he went Miami, stayed there for a couple of days, Miami, Florida. And again, he saw Gaur-Nitai on the altar. And he said to the devotees, he said, very merciful. Lord Chaitanya, very merciful. He said, and maybe someday you'll have Radha Krishna. He said, but even if you don't, he said, Radha Krishna's right here, Lord Chaitanya, he said. You just worship them. Then, of course, he went to Atlanta, very famous 3 days. There he cried. He gave a 2-minute lecture, started crying in the lecture, saying how merciful Lord Chaitanya is. We're all looking at Prabhupada. We can understand Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, very merciful, but we could see Prabhupada, how merciful he was, what he was doing, how he took care of us. Never wanted anything for himself. Just wanted to give Krishna to everyone. And he said the two lords, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, so merciful. Then he said, Krishna is also merciful, but he demands surrender. But imagine, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda came. They didn't ask for anything. You just take Krishna, no qualification. You just take this Hare Krishna mantra. Freely, giving it to everyone freely. Then from Atlanta, he went to Dallas. From Dallas to New York to Bhaktivedanta Manor in England. Again, he saw the deities on the altar. Every time he would see Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, he couldn't control his emotions. Because he's seeing the whole world is becoming Krishna conscious. Imagine he did that. Prabhupada brought Krishna, Hare Krishna mantra, the deities to everyone all around the world. And then after Bhaktivedanta Manor, went to one other place on the way to Mayapur. What's that place? Tehran, Iran. Iran, you will be hearing about that for the next week or two, about Iran. Somehow or other, Prabhupada went there, I think, 3 times to Tehran. So much struggle there. Prabhupada went to the most difficult places to give Lord Chaitanya, to give Krishna. He didn't think, this dangerous place. More dangerous it was, the more he was eager to go there. I think it was the very last class I gave months ago. He went to South Africa. It was a dangerous place, especially for an Indian-bodied person to go there and bring together so many people. That was unheard of in those days, in the 70s. Prabhupada did it. He didn't think twice. Give Krishna, to give the mercy of Lord Chaitanya to everyone. And all along taking care of all of us. Somehow or other, He always understood, you just serve Krishna, everything else will be taken care of. I wanted to read this. I want to read one thing. Prabhupada said, this is talking to his disciples. So this is from the very beginning when Prabhupada arrived in New York. Of course, he got to New York. He didn't know where's a good place, where's not a good place. No money. One boy, he was coming to me, 171st Street. Everything was stolen. My tape recorder, my typewriter. Fortunately, they didn't touch my manuscript that I was writing. Typing my books. Money was stolen. Then, boy, he's coming to me. He said, I have a place. Come to my place. A loft on the Bowery Street. I didn't know that the Bowery Street wasn't a good quarter. All bums and drunks. When I see them, one Jewish friend, he had an electrical shop. He said to me, Swamiji, you've gone to the Bowery? Oh, it's not your place. I didn't know that. It's full of drunkards. But they were lying down in front of my door. But they were respectful. When I'd go, these drunkards come and they respectfully give me my way. And they would lie down on urine, something like that, on water. Then the boy, he took me. His name was Murray. His last title was Murray. He was taking LSD. So since I went there, he didn't go to work. Otherwise, he was working and getting $25. In some dock, he was working. Since I went, he stopped. And I had to pay $125 for the loft. One lady was landlord. So that was going on. Some people were coming, then Mukunda came, his wife, another black boy, half black, Yergin, Karlapati. I gave him a name, Karlapati. He was coming. Then that boy Murray, he showed some crazy features. So I thought it's dangerous to live with him. So I approached Mukunda. He had no place. Still, I asked him. So I kept my goods at his house and went to live with Yergin. That's another loft. In this way, with great hardship, sometimes here, sometimes there. In this way, I got $200 by selling my books. And then I asked Mukunda to find an apartment. And he found this apartment, 26 2nd Avenue. One storefront down and one living quarters up. So I found it very convenient. Down I would lecture and hold kirtan. He charged $75 per month for the apartment. Small apartment. I think in a space like this room or less. Anyway, Prabhupada goes on and on, remembering how hard he worked to bring Krishna consciousness to everyone. Wasn't easy. When I think now, I'm approaching that age, almost 75 years old, when Prabhupada was traveling. He said we were in our 20s, sometimes barely 20 years old. We found it difficult just to travel with him. What to speak of what he was doing during all of that. Huh? Imagine Tehran. He went to Tehran. I saw one devotee, young girl from Tehran, her family, they're devotees. She was born a devotee there in Iran. Right now she's visiting in Govardhan. But such good devotees. But of course everything, can't exhibit anything in those countries, wherever Muslims are. Everything very quiet, but they're still practicing Krishna consciousness. So this was Prabhupada's mood. Go to any place, most difficult place, they need Krishna. More than everyone, more than anyone, he was interested in giving them Krishna consciousness. But he was very kind, very merciful. He was austere. Huh? He was very austere. He liked Rupa Gosvami. He would say, go live under a tree. Prabhupada would always, he would go to New Vrindavan, wherever he would go, he would find a tree, sit under the tree, and there he would speak. Always preferred to be outside, speaking outside than even inside. He preferred that. But he always took care of us for everything we did. That was his example. I asked Panchago today, well, I don't know what to say today. So he told me what to say today. How merciful was Śrīla Prabhupada. How merciful Lord Chaitanya, huh? Krishna and his devotees, all they want to do is see us happy. After I had been with Prabhupada 2.5 years, then I stayed in Hawaii, then I wound up in Boston for some months with Ambarish, and Prabhupada came to Detroit. So I traveled from Boston to Detroit. We took a flight, Boston to Detroit. Well, Prabhupada was there for a few days, so I stayed there. I hadn't seen him for a year. So he gave class the one morning, first morning there, and then he was walking to his room. And we're all standing. Now it's just like everyone just standing in the line as Śrīla Prabhupada's walking by. And as he would walk by, everyone would offer obeisances. As he's walking by, I offered obeisances. Then I sat up and he stopped. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, how are you? We only had one response when Prabhupada said, how are you? Everyone said the same thing. Very good, Śrīla Prabhupada. Even if you would travel thousands of miles to see him because you were struggling in some way, you wanted to tell him about your problems. As soon as you saw his lotus face, his transcendental face, his smile, his loving eyes, he'd say, how are you? You'd say, very good, Śrīla Prabhupada. Everything disappeared in his presence. When you're in front of a pure devotee, you're in front of Krishna, what question is there of problems? So I said the same thing. I didn't say, I said, very good, Prabhupada. He looked at me and smiled. He said, just chant Hare Krishna, be happy. I said, yes, Prabhupada. And then I went into his room after his breakfast. And I'm sitting there, and he's there, Ambarish was there, and he's just talking. And then Hari Sari came in, Prabhupada's servant now. He had been his servant now for about 6 months or so. And he came in his gumsha. This is what we always came in. 11:30, you came into Prabhupada's room, you had your gumsha on. At the time, your bottle of mustard oil and a little bottle of sandalwood oil. So he came in and he had on his little red and white gumsha, straw mat, give Prabhupada his massage. And I saw Hari Sari and he had broad shoulders. I said, oh. And I just looked at Prabhupada. I said, looks like he can give very good massage, Prabhupada. He said, yes. He said, he gives good massage. Then he looked at him. He said, but Srutakirti could cook. And Srutakirti could type. And Srutakirti could drive. He never said that to me. But in order to, his servant now, he had to keep his servant in his place. Prabhupada knew it. He never said anything nice to you directly. I had 3 different people tell me, Prabhupada said you make first-class sandesh. I said, really? I said, he never said that to me. You'd have to teach us humility. Of course, when you travel with the pure devotees, sometimes that humility that could, was hard to maintain. When we went to Caracas, I was away from Prabhupada for 6 months. I was brahmachari, then I left him, got married. 8 months later, I was back with him. So 6 of those months, I was in Caracas temple. So 1975, when Prabhupada arrived at Caracas, now I'm his servant again. Not was his servant, now I was again his servant. So you're feeling very happy. And I knew all the devotees in Caracas. Knew Javi, Ian. There were bhaktas. So many of the devotees. So I knew them all. So when we got back there with Srila Prabhupada, I was feeling very happy and a little proud. And Prabhupada came in and helped him up to the Vyasa-san. This was your duty, his servant, everything. Every moment you had to see what he was doing, what you could do for him. Not what he needed. He didn't need anything. But what service he was giving you. So I helped him on the Vyasa-san, and he sat down on the Vyasa-san. And immediately I just started looking in the temple room, small temple room. All my friends, all my old friends, Javi, this one, that one. And I'm like looking at them. And then something hit me in the head. And on the floor, Prabhupada had taken his socks off. And he rolled them into a ball. And he threw them at me. Because that was my service. That's what I would do. Give him his glasses, open the book, do everything. Get his cane, put it there, make sure the water cup was there. This is what you do, a servant. Everything. You have to be aware. But because I had lost my focus, imagine get hit with Prabhupada's socks by Prabhupada. Such a wonderful. So he brought me back to my consciousness that I was fortunate, so fortunate to be able to travel, the pure devotee, as he would see everyone becoming Krishna conscious. And he was in ecstasy. That was his ecstasy in seeing this Lord Chaitanya's movement been spread all over the world. I wanted to read one or two verses here in the middle. Got right there. This is verse 150. The translation is, O great sage, out of many millions of materially liberated people who are free from ignorance, and out of many millions of siddhas who have nearly attained perfection, there is hardly one pure devotee of Narayan. Only such a devotee is actually completely satisfied and peaceful. In the next verse, very famous, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Ajiv Guru Krishna Prasadi Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems. Some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of millions of living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. Śrīla Prabhupada says in the purport, when we speak of Brahmanda, we refer to the whole universe, or to the cluster of many millions of universes. I wanted to read this next one. When a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravana and Kirtan, the seed will begin to sprout. Prabhupada says, to live with devotees or to live in a temple means to associate with the Shravana Kirtana process. Sometimes neophytes, devotees, think that they can continue the Shravana Kirtana process without worshiping the deity. But the execution of Shravana Kirtan is meant for highly developed devotees like Haridas Thakur. who engaged in the Shravana Kirtana process without worshiping the deity. However, one should not falsely imitate Haridas Thakur and abandon deity worship just to try to engage in Shravana Kirtan. This is not possible for neophyte devotees. The word Guru Prasad indicates the spiritual master is very merciful in bestowing the boon of devotional service upon the disciple. That is the best possible gift the spiritual master has to offer. Those with a background of pious life are eligible to receive life's supreme benefit. And to bestow this benefit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead sends his representative to impart his mercy. Endowed with the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master distributes the mercy to those who are elevated and pious. Thus, the spiritual master trains his disciples to render devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Guru Kripa. It is Krishna Prasad, Krishna's mercy, that he sends a bona fide spiritual master to the deserving disciple. By the mercy of Krishna, one meets the bona fide spiritual master, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, the disciple is fully trained in the devotional service of the Lord. So how fortunate we are. Krishna's representative Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Śrīla Prabhupada. What he did, like I said, one can have millions of tongues and trillions of ears. And Prabhupada talked about that, his spiritual master saying, newspapers, we're putting out 5 papers, his Guru Maharaj said, one of them a daily. So many papers? He said, you have so many papers talking about mundane activities. What to speak of the activities of the Lord? So we're so fortunate. Prabhupada, founder Acharya, over the last, since I went to Africa, South Africa, some months ago, we had, one of the classes was about founder Acharya, the meaning of founder Acharya. Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj was speaking about it. We spoke about it. Prabhupada gave us an entire system. I was thinking of that too, how in the beginning, 1966 was simple. He had 3 classes in a week, 26 2nd Avenue. Then gradually, Prabhupada set up a system. Very systematic it was as he saw, how can I engage all of these people, especially these Westerners, so much passion. Got to keep them busy. That's what he says here. And that question, make believe you're Haridas Thakur, you're just going to sit there and chant Hare Krishna 24 hours a day. No, he saw he had to engage us. He came up with such a brilliant system with the morning program, 4 o'clock in the morning on. Like now, 4 o'clock to 9, he has everyone engaged. And if we weren't, he would let us know. People he traveled, those traveling with him. If we were sleeping in the morning, I'd hear the bell ring. Where are they? Where are they? He didn't like it. He said, this is your Krishna conscious program. I've given it to you. As our Acharya, our founder Acharya, he set this program up. Mangal Artik, Tulsi Puja. They weren't all there. It was one thing added and added another and another. And Tulsi Puja started. In Hawaii, they would offer sparklers. You know what sparklers are? They look like a stick of incense, but you light it up and psh, all the fire comes out. They were offering sparklers the Tulsi Day. We had no idea, but gradually he trained us what to do with these people, how to keep them engaged all the time, unless they fall into Maya, how to stay out of Maya. So the Tulsi Puja came. Even the Nrsimha Arati wasn't there in the beginning. Everything, he added one thing and another, layers upon layers. In the morning class, Bhagavatam class, When I hear Bhagavatam class, I always marvel when I hear Pradyumna chanting the slokas, and then everyone responding in the audience, and you hear Prabhupada's voice. Just one of the devotees. Some level he considered this just one of the devotees. When you hear him chanting with everyone, to me it's the most wonderful thing. That's the things I love most about Srila Prabhupada. Was back in his room, just playing a harmonium, doing bhajans, walking around chanting his rounds. Everything he was telling us to do, he was doing it. He was doing it. Reading his books, these books, just this one chapter. You could go on for months and months giving class on this one chapter. All these books, and he was reading them, relishing them. You all know things that he said. When I read them, he said, he was surprised. Oh, I've said this. I was with Bali Murdan recently in GEV. So many things, somehow or other, although we weren't together a lot, the way Prabhupada dealt with him and the way he dealt with me was very similar. Bali Murdan said, Prabhupada never chastised me. He knew how to deal with each and every one of us. He never hardly chastised me 2.5 years. With him every day I didn't get chastised. Didn't mean I couldn't have been. It just meant that was his mercy. But he said with Bali Murdan, and he said the same thing. We were giving class together. We were saying the same things Prabhupada said to us. He said, yeah, after class the one day, Prabhupada called me into his room. He said, did you record that class? Same thing. He said, yes, Prabhupada. He said, play it. He said, I like that class. Even Prabhupada was impressed. Not because of himself, but Kṛṣṇa is giving this ability to do this. Not anything I can do. It's coming from Kṛṣṇa. He said the same thing to Bali Murdan. Play that class. I want to hear that. So he would listen to his class after he gave his class. He would enjoy hearing what was said. And then there's one other thing. I'll end with this. One other thing really surprised me because I've told this story many times. It happened in Atlanta. Up in Prabhupada's bedroom when I was giving him a massage and he's looking at the picture of Krishna Balaram and the cowherd boys and calves. And he said, I like the cowherd boys very much. Then he told me the story of Krishna Balaram. Young boys, he said, they would herd the calves. But they would go into the forest of Vṛndāvana and they all had their tiffins. And Balaram's tiffin had kachori, lagdu, like that. The cowherd boys, simple. Chapatis, dal, rice. And then they would steal Krishna's tiffin, he said, and they would eat the kachori and lagdu. And then he just looked at me and said, I just want to go back to the spiritual world and eat kachori and lagdu with Krishna. So I'm sitting next to Bali Murdan. Before I even got to speak, he tells the story. Prabhupada, not to me, Prabhupada told him the exact same thing. And I never heard that story ever from anyone. And even when I would tell the story, sometimes I would get chastised. People would say, lagdu. There's no lagdu. Bali Murdan told the story, said the same thing. Prabhupada said, kachori and lagdu. Anyway, this was Prabhupada. He was just with Kṛṣṇa, always with Kṛṣṇa. And he's given us the opportunity to do the same. All through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhus. Okay. Hare Krishna. Panchagoda, you have it? Did you give your 50% when you joined? He gave 100%.
I mean, Arjuna was very fortunate to have Kṛṣṇa personal darshan and hear from Kṛṣṇa. And some of you have had personal association. Even many Prabhupada disciples never had a chance to even meet Prabhupada because of traveling around the world and very rarely. So how do we see that? I mean, how do we stay enthused that we're connected to Prabhupada, not having the direct physical darshan?
I was with Chandramali Swami last month, and he said to me, just last night, he said, I was reading Prabhupada's books. He said, but he was talking to me. He said, I could literally hear him talking to me through his books. So that's how important these books are, as Prabhupada always emphasized. Distribute them. This is, no matter what else happened, these books, they're literally Śrīla Prabhupada. Like he said, Vani more important. And he lives forever in his words. So it's that important. That's why class is so important. Reading is so important. Because you can have that. Just like me today, I feel Prabhupada's presence. I'm not, because we're speaking about him. And that's the process with Krishna. We say these pastimes. Pastime of Govardhan Hill, Prahlad Maharaj. We said them dozens and dozens, hundreds of times probably, right? In the last 50 years, we've heard these pastimes. But Krishna's there, Prabhupada's there, ever fresh. That's what we have to come to understand. Spiritual life, everything is personal. I say, everything personal. So that's important. That's why I read that one verse and a little bit of the purport about the Shravanam Kirtanam, the association with devotees, which means devotees, this is what they're doing. So that's most important. Not that Prabhupada never liked wandering off on our own, thinking that I'm so advanced, I can just sit here by myself, chant Hare Krishna. He didn't like that process. He liked the process of association with devotees, always associate with the devotees. And that way we can remain enthused. Anything else? Everyone hungry today? Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
100% hungry. 50%.
Krishna